How do you know if your qualitative analysis is actually good enough? Not perfect, just good enough to stand behind. Because if you're anything like many of the PhD researchers that I work with, you might be thinking, are these themes too obvious? Have I missed something? Am I just guessing, just making this up? What if my supervisor tears this apart? And if that sounds familiar, you are very much not alone. Recently, here on the Degree Doctor YouTube channel, I ran a poll because I wanted to know what part of qualitative data analysis you felt the most stuck on. As you can see, the two most popular answers were knowing if themes are good enough and feeling like you're guessing everything. This tells us something important because this tells us that this isn't just an analysis problem. It is, more often than not, a problem with your confidence in your own judgment. In this video, I'm going to show you how to evaluate your own analysis properly, and we're going to use real criteria to do that. So you can stop relying on vague feelings that you get when you're doing your analysis, many of which are fueled by imposter syndrome, and you can actually start trusting your own judgment much more than you do right now. If we've not met before, hi, I'm Dr. Elizabeth Yardley, and for the last 20 years, I've supported qualitative PhD researchers through those stages where everything just feels harder than it should. Analysis is one of those stages where you feel this the most. This is because you are being expected to make interpretive judgments without ever really being shown how to do that. How do you know if what you're basing your judgment on is actually sound? Let's get into it. This is where a lot of people get stuck immediately. They assume that their qualitative data contains this hidden set of themes and it's just a case of finding them. And if they don't unearth exactly the right ones, then they failed in some way. This is not usually how qualitative analysis works. Analysis is interpretive. You are making thoughtful, evidence-based judgments about patterns, meanings, processes, contradictions, experiences, relationships, and this means there may be more than one reasonable interpretation. So the question is not, is this the correct answer? Instead, it's this. Is this a credible, thoughtful, well-supported answer? That shift matters enormously. I'm going to give you 5 really useful criteria that you can apply to figure out whether your analysis is actually good enough. So go and grab a pen and paper and we'll run through them. To make it a bit less abstract, we're going to use an example. Let's imagine you're researching newly qualified school teachers and their experiences of interacting with children's parents. You've interviewed 20 teachers and you're now trying to make sense of the data. Let's take the first criterion. Can you explain how you arrived here? Let's say one of your themes is feeling constantly evaluated by parents. Ask yourself, can you explain how you arrived here? For example, are there repeated references to being judged in your data? Anxiety before parent meetings? A sense of pressure to reply quickly to emails? Participants sharing their concerns with you about seeming inexperienced? If so, you're doing well because you can explain how you arrived at that particular theme. All of those points that we just ran through are evidence for that conclusion. Criterion number 2, does it help answer your research questions? Let's say your research question is, how do newly qualified teachers experience relationships with parents? Then a theme like feeling constantly evaluated by parents helps answer that directly. But if you've got a vague theme, like communication, that might be too broad unless you sharpen what that reveals and be more specific in explaining exactly how that helps answer that research question. Criterion number 3, does it move beyond summary? Let's say that participants repeatedly mention workload, emails, meetings, and expectations. A weaker theme might be parent communication. That is simply a topic label. It's very descriptive. A stronger theme might be constant parental demands blurred the boundaries of the teaching role. Now we're moving toward meaning. We're going beyond summary. And themes are usually stronger when they explain something, when they have that interpretive element to them, and they go beyond just naming a topic or putting a label on it. Before we get on to the next criterion, I want to hear from you in the comments. What element of your analysis are you having the most trouble with right now? What part of it do you trust the least at the moment? Your coding, your themes, your interpretation, your write-up? Chances are many people feel exactly the same way, so get typing down there. I reply to every single comment myself, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what you write. Criterion number 4, and I think this is my favourite one. I really love this one. And this criterion is, could another intelligent person disagree with you? Now, this might sound a little bit strange, but actively looking for disagreement is something that is going to really strengthen your analysis. For example, let's say we're looking at the theme, feeling constantly evaluated by parents. Somebody else might come along and say, well, isn't this really about lack of confidence as a new teacher? And that is a reasonable alternative explanation. So that makes you think a little bit more deeply about it. So you might ask yourself, is the issue parental judgment or professional insecurity or both interacting together? And that is analysis. What matters is whether you can justify your reasoning. And looking for the possibility of disagreement, looking for potential alternative explanations is really going to enhance the quality of your work. Criterion number 5. Does the whole analysis feel coherent? Let's say your themes are feeling constantly evaluated, struggling to set boundaries, learning to perform confidence, growing professional authority over time. Those themes relate quite clearly to each other. They tell a believable story about the transition into teaching, and strong analysis often has internal coherence that is quite obvious. So look across your themes. What story do they tell collectively? How do they all hang together? A lot of people say to me, when they're doing their qualitative analysis, when they're right in the middle of it, they say, I feel like I'm guessing. I feel like I'm just making this up. Usually they're not guessing. They're not making things up. One of 3 things is probably happening. Firstly, their reasoning is still in their head. They've noticed the patterns, they've made the decisions, but they haven't written that down, they haven't articulated it. So that's why it still feels vague. There's been a process that's happened, but it just hasn't been documented anywhere. And that's why it feels a little bit wobbly. Secondly, they've never been shown evaluation criteria, like the criteria that we just walked through then. So the only question that's really available to them when it comes to judging their work is this right? Is this correct? And as we now know, that's not a helpful question. And thirdly, they mistake uncertainty for incompetence. Qualitative analysis involves a lot of uncertainty and a lot of ambiguity, and part of getting good at it involves learning to sit with that and be okay with it, not expecting an answer, and learning to just leave things unfinished and go away and think about them and then come back to them, because this process takes time. It doesn't mean you're failing, It means that interpretation is part of the task, and good interpretation is something that cannot be rushed. I've got a practical test that you can use today for one of your themes. Go and take one of the themes that you've generated from your analysis and ask these questions of it. What data supports this? Why did I group these ideas together? What is the central meaning here? What different interpretation could someone else make? Why does my version make sense? How does this help answer my research question? If you can respond thoughtfully to these questions, then it's likely that you are a lot further along than you think. As I said at the start, it is completely normal, completely expected to feel quite uncertain and wobbly when you get to this phase of the PhD journey. Because a lot of researchers assume that you have to be confident to do good analysis. Confidence grows through developing good analysis. And where you've got clear criteria for judging your work, that is only going to make your confidence grow and make you feel better and more solid in the judgments that you've made. If you don't feel confident in your analysis at the moment, it doesn't mean that you lack ability or that you can't do it. It probably means that you need a stronger framework for evaluating what it is that you're doing. And hopefully this video has been helpful in getting you towards that point. Appearing on your screen right now are another couple of videos you might find helpful if you've enjoyed this one. So go and check them out. I'll see you in there.